You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shawn Preece.
Happy Friday, Shawn Preece.
Happy Friday to you, Stephen Scott, and indeed, double tappers out there.
Old double tap. Hang on. There we go. Double tapping.
Oh, well done.
That was nice, wasn't it?
We've never done that before.
I
That's
know.
new.
Do you know, I feel like if we had, had some kind of order to things here and
Yes.
been smart, we would have had that Netflix da-dum. That would have been good for double tap.
Oh, yeah. We need a audio logo. You know we're going to get lots of these through email. Now, if anyone wants to do an audio logo for double tap,
Don't steal Netflix though. We'll get in trouble. No. They won't like that. They I think they like us. I don't know if they like us, but
they don't know we're here, I'm sure.
Oh, everyone knows we're here. Come on, everyone's listening to this show.
Hello.
People might not admit it, but they'll.
We're a guilty secret, okay.
We're a guilty pleasure for people, absolutely. Listen, lots to talk about today. Of course, more feedback that we're going to dump into. You know what? Yeah, let's just get right in. Let's get right in.
What? Hang on.
Yeah.
We get email.
I'm not ready.
We get your email
Every day.
Ready for what?
Here's your mail today.
What are you not ready for? Oh, I see. Right, okay. You
Work up to
need
it.
time for that. Right, okay. You still waking up, are you?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Okay,
Is it
fine.
that obvious?
A little bit. Right, Roberto's been in touch. Hello, Roberto.
Hello, Shawn and Stephen. I found today's episode very engaging, particularly your discussion on the Neuralink device and the sensitive topics surrounding it. It's certainly a complex subject that evokes a lot of important conversations. Stephen, I wanted to share some thoughts, especially regarding your take on the social model of disability. While I understand the nuances can be challenging to convey in a brief discussion, I feel that the complexity of the issue was perhaps slightly oversimplified in your commentary. There is undeniably an impairment at play. My blindness, your blindness, these are physical conditions, and there's no interest in denying that fact. However, the essence of the social model of disability extends beyond just acknowledging physical impairments. It focuses on how society interprets and responds to these conditions. To give you an example from my own experience, I grew up in a Spanish-speaking country where most movies on TV were in English with subtitles. As a blind child, this meant relying on someone to narrate the movies to me as best they could, since audio description was not available. At the time, I used to blame my blindness for not being able to watch movies. I was unaware that advancements like audio description existed and how they could have significantly improved my experience. My focus was solely on the physical condition and not the way society played a role in my inability to watch movies. This doesn't mean that audio description would make me sighted or that I could see movies in the traditional sense. However, it does highlight how societal choices, such as the inclusion or absence of accessibility features, shape our experiences and contribute to what we define as a disability. Regarding Neuralink, even if the promise of enabling visual perception holds true, I'm almost certain it won't be universally accessible. Many individuals in undeveloped countries or areas lacking access to advanced medical technology might not benefit from it. Even in developed countries, cost and other factors will likely limit its availability. So, while Neuralink and similar technologies can potentially improve certain physical aspects of disability, they are only part of the solution. Disability is a multifaceted concept, encompassing more than just the physical limitations. Technology alone cannot resolve it. The solution, if there is one, is more complex and broad, requiring societal change alongside technological advancements. I just wanted to share these thoughts because I believe there's another way to look at this topic, one that considers both the physical aspects and the societal context in which we live. In a future contribution, I'll tell you how I'm composing this email with my iPhone using an app called Ico, ChatGPT, and the Drafts app. No Bluetooth keyboard involved. I think the listeners and you will both find the process very interesting. Keep up the wonderful show. Best regards, Roberto.
Oh, wow. That sounds very interesting.
We're intrigued. Yeah, I can't wait to hear that. That's very interesting. Okay, so the social model, Stephen Scott. Can you disagree with anything Roberto said there?
No, and I think we're at a bit of a precipice here, aren't we? It feels, I suppose we're always at this precipice where, we've been talking about this all week, I think, but, it does feel like there's two routes here open to us. One is a fix that society wants to fix us and therefore not bother with the challenges and problems that we currently have. So let's take an inaccessible website, for example. Well, never mind. We'll just give you your full vision back. You don't need to care about an inaccessible website. There's that, and then there's the other side of it, which is actually let's fix all the problems with the inaccessible website and so on, and therefore the person who's disabled has a better life and doesn't have to, and suddenly the disability we have isn't as much of a disability for us. And I think that's the bit, because I saw a video the other day, and it made me think about this, because again, we think about it in our blind bubble sometimes, and then you kind of look outside the bubble and you see what else is going on out there. And it was a father who had created this machine that allowed his daughter, who was unable to walk, she had no ability to walk, she would not be able to walk, never be able to walk, but he developed a machine that could allow her to walk, almost like what's that thing you use, not the power trainer, what do they call it, the thing you use to walk? What do they call it?
The thing I used to walk, the Zimmer frame.
No, the thing on the gym. What's that thing you were talking about the other day?
The elliptical trainer, cross trainer.
Elliptical trainer, yeah. Something like that, right? But instead of it being static, it moved. So she was in this machine, essentially walking down the corridor in this video.
Right.
And it kind of made me think, this girl would use a wheelchair. What's wrong with a wheelchair? And I think that is the problem with society in a nutshell, isn't it? That they kind of look at the thing that the disability, they see the wheelchair, and they go, oh, well, I know you need the wheelchair, but actually let's find something, let's create something else that makes you look normal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, makes you fit in with the rest of us.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you stand out.
And it's like the wheelchair does the job. There's nothing wrong with a wheelchair. And that, I think, is part of what Roberto's talking about here, is this society's issue is that it kind of wants to dismiss us a little bit for its own reasons. But it's not actually about, it's never about us, I don't think. It's never about us. It's about the people themselves thinking, I don't want to have that. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I don't want to be blind. I don't want to be deaf. But the reality is, guys, I'm sorry if you're fully sighted, if you don't have a disability and you're watching this or listening to this, look, it can happen to anybody anytime. This is one club that anybody can get involved in at any point, whether you want to or not.
Yes.
And I think, wouldn't you rather be in a world where, like, my dad the other day, right? He's struggling with his phone. He's got Parkinson's and he's struggling with his phone. And I'm like, there's tools in here you can use to help you along. He was even struggling to see the screen. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to touch any of those disability things. That's nothing to do with me. I'm like, but you're disabled. You've got Parkinson's and you're struggling to get around. You've got bad mobility. Your vision's getting worse. Why
that's
don't
not
you?
Me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The fear is being projected onto us, but the fear is with the individual. The person who's talking to you that's dismissing your disability, they are frightened, not you. That's the truth of it. Because we're living it.
I think there's part of that. Yeah, definitely. I think we see that with our interactions every day, some of the awkwardness and sometimes where people just won't even talk to you, which is always really strange to me, where people remain quiet and try and, I'm not here. I hope you don't notice.
Yeah.
But I also think it's just easier. In the example that Roberto gave there, it's just easier for that, the broadcaster or whatever to not even think about it. It's about looking at everyday things in a different way, and it's not easy. Accessibility isn't necessarily an easy thing for someone to think about. So obviously we've come a long way, but still a long way to go. So I think there's a couple of, as Roberto said, it's a complicated issue.
Oh, it is. Absolutely is. And look, there's a million perspectives on it, and that's why I love opening up this conversation to have and hear those perspectives. I have my views about things, but you guys have yours, and we should discuss it. We should talk about it. And, I go away and think a lot after these shows about things you've said, and that really does stick with me. Because, I'm not a smart person. I kind of think as much as I can think. But I'm not a well-read individual.
You are, Stephen.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you.
Sorry, I got there.
Goodness me, that was a bit of a struggle, wasn't it? Yeah, blame the tiredness. But no, I think it's a great conversation to have, because I think the conversation around accessibility, I've noticed over the last year, has really grown up. We're talking now in much more granular terms about accessibility than we ever did. And I think that's a good thing. There's more conversation about it, but there's still nowhere near enough understanding of the issues, of the challenges we face. And it's not always about, beating people up with, the challenges and the issues. It's also sometimes just telling people about the solutions, right? That's what I love about this show. It's like, yeah, we can use a smartphone. Yes, we watch television. Yes, we go to the movies. But we have these features that allow us to do that. And I like to call them features, rather than accessibility. It's a feature. Audio description is a feature of the movie in the same way that the sound in 5.1 stereo is as well, right? Or whatever. So, I just think we've got to try and accentuate that. But, it does raise the question, all of this talk this week about Neuralink that we've had does raise an interesting question. Should Neuralink even exist? Do we even need it? Because ultimately, if we, maybe this takes it on a little bit, right? Because I think after everything everyone said this week, I wonder if perhaps we just need to focus on doing what Roberto's talking about, which is, yes, attitudes. We need to challenge that. But I think also we need to just get more accessibility going. We need to get more companies, more people. And I think we are getting somewhere. I think we're getting somewhere. Look, there's been huge progress.
Oh, I agree.
Since I was at school, goodness me, there's been massive strides. I mean, I look at the Mac. I just look at the Mac, right? I was using a Mac at school. It had nothing in terms of accessibility on it. Nothing. Now I can use it without a screen. I can use it with a braille display. I can use it if I have no hands.
Yeah,
I can use it if I'm deaf. I can, I can make FaceTime calls. The accessibility has increased massively across the devices, and that is something that we should cherish. We should be pleased about, and that's why I guess we get so annoyed when things fall apart, because it feels like, well, have they just done it as a, okay, it was like a nice corporate thing to do. I don't feel that way with Apple, to be fair, or indeed many of the big tech companies. I know they have a huge team of people working behind them, but
again, it's not just
needs
down to the
push
companies.
More.
I think there's so many different ways that this accessibility advancements have happened. It is the organizations out there, the NFBs, CNIBs, the RNIBs. It's feedback from us, ourselves as end users. It is the companies, it's legislation. It's a combination of everything. It's not just one thing that's made the accessibility where it is. And
that's true.
Keeping it in the conversation helps.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that, Roberto. Very interesting to kick off with. Cece's back with some comments.
Good day, folks. This is Cece on the line from Montreal. In a recent mention of AI and status, the word sustainable came up. And yes, I have listened to other podcasts, and one is a science podcast from overseas, and they seem to be really, really conscientious of going over the materials and looking for facts. And one of them that they came up with was that Apple and Amazon and Google and Facebook are lobbying governments to restart coal-burning generators. And apparently, Microsoft is trying to get 3 Mile Island going again to provide them with enough power to handle the predicted need for AI. Now, when we talk about sustainability, that sounds all wrong to me. If we're going to have to restart coal power generators and nuclear power plants to make this stuff work, it's definitely not worth it. I hope to live another few years, and I hope that my nieces and nephews have a chance to grow up too. But it won't work if the climate crisis continues pegging along. I know we have to be optimistic and hope for the best, but it seems like one instance where they're going a little too far. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cece. I appreciate that. Look, it's a fair point, right? I mean, people who talk about climate change and companies especially who talk about their environmental responsibilities, I feel are missing something here when it comes to the messaging, because Cece's right. AI, cryptocurrency, goodness me, what an amazing waste of electricity that is. And the only way these things work is with huge amounts of computing power. that has to be powered by something, and it can't clearly all be by solar or by wind. So the companies realize this, and they're having to invest in new ways to do it. But of course, at a huge cost to the climate.
Well, I mean, I've heard that Microsoft are looking into the nuclear option for powering their server farms as well. I haven't heard about the coal, asking for the coal power to be booted up again. So who knows? But it's a discussion we need to have, because this is only going to get, the demand for AI is only going to get more and more and more. And when we talk about demand, it's really mind-boggling the amount of requests. When you think about how many times you ask your smart speaker a question, then that's sent off and it's processed and sent back to you, but it's done within a split second. We don't even think about it anymore.
No.
And AI is only going to make this a million times more loaded than that. So yeah, it's you're absolutely right. But I mean, these companies need to come up with a solution to it. And I mean, I hate to say it, but Apple have said that they are going to try and get zero emissions server farms out there. And that's something I think we need to start holding these companies on. We can't just keep shoveling on the coal for the power. It's just not going to be sustainable, as CC said.
I remember our good friend Robin Christopherson came on, and he was talking about this issue. And he, at the time, was talking about Google searches and how every Google search was like boiling a full kettle of water. Yeah. Same energy draw as boiling a full kettle of water. You imagine every single time you do a Google search, how many times you do that in a day? And, equate that to a chat GPT conversation, which I think would probably be even more than that. Because we don't think about that. We don't think about the energy draw because it's not coming from our end. It's coming from the other side of it. It's the computer on the other end. Now, of course, some of this could be resolved by having more devices that can be capable, locally to do a lot of this. And I think that's part of the way to solve this temporarily, it would appear. This is the bridge for me. I can see that as the bridge to all out, require of nuclear power stations to handle all this. Because ultimately, if you can get more of the requests handled on the device, then that means you're saving the need to reach out into the cloud, which of course is using a huge amount of power. But of course, I often think of it like people who say to me, I remember when I was flying to Las Vegas for CES back in 2019 or 2020 it was, and I remember someone saying, well, I hope you've, checked the size of your carbon footprint and all this. And, and you shouldn't really be going. And I said, well, here's the thing. Here's the way I look at it. The plane's going anyway. Whether I'm on it or not, the plane is flying regardless. It's a booked flight. It's not a flight with just me on it.
Chartered private jet, Stephen Scott.
As much as I would have loved that, I don't think AMI were paying. So, I said, look, my take is that, it's going to be there anyway. And it's a bit like this with the server farms. So I suppose the challenge is to solve this now before the need for these server farms are built, because once they're built and they're powered on, they're on, right? So they're then drawing the electricity, and then what do you do? And of course, and add all this up with electric cars. People, of course, great for the environment, but are they great for the environment? And I often feel, I don't know enough about this to really dig in enough, but I just, in my tiny little mind, I think to myself, if you've got all these cars running around using electricity, what's generating that electricity? It's not windmills. So I don't know. There has to be a huge power source from somewhere, and what does that mean? So I think we're going to be using oil and gas for a long time, whether we like it or not. And as we know, with politics in the US, it could turn on a dime. Let's be honest, and we could end up drilling. Fracking is a big thing, which is, I think, is a terrible thing for the planet. Terrible thing for the areas that are being fracked, because there's huge potential for earthquakes and causes all kinds of environmental damage. And then, of course, oil. I mean, I live in Scotland, which is, one of the main oil fields here in Europe. And, it is, they're talking of opening up drilling for another well.
We just want more power. It's just,
and there's another, yeah, exactly. And a lot of the developing countries that are starting to come up now, who are starting to get more capability and getting access to the internet. It's very hard to turn around to those countries that have been struggling for years to say, Now, I know you like your air conditioning, and I know you like your smartphone, and I know you like having your internet, but actually, could we just cut all that off because it's bad for the planet now? Meanwhile, the West has been exploring and enjoying this for years and decades.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit unfair, doesn't it? So that's the challenge. How do you deal with that? Anyway,
It's
people
true.
smarter
Server
than us will
farms
figure it out.
are going to become a big issue in the near future that we do need to think about.
Yeah.
Wow, all serious. Carry on.
Well, what you could do.
Oh, here we go.
Here's an idea, right? Because Elon's smart, right? So what Elon could do is he takes one of those spaceships over to Mars, and he hooks up a server farm over there, and there's a big cable. Yeah, big cable.
A coily USB cable.
I would recommend a coily cable because there might be a bit of movement between the planets.
Yeah, very good.
You don't want like it to ping out. You don't want the USB to fall out. It's like, I need to go back to Mars again. That's another 7 months of my life gone.
Someone tripping over it. No, that's
Nothing
right.
worse.
MagSafe.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
That's why they don't call me into those meetings. Right, Eleanor's here.
Oh.
I like to hear from Eleanor. Okay, what's she got to say today?
Hi guys, it's Eleanor again.
I know, I just said that.
Shawn,
Oh.
a week or two back, you said you were talking about the sensation or the feeling that you get when you come close to an obstacle.
Oh, yes.
I've always been aware of this, and it has nothing to do with sound or echolocation. It's more of a pressure, like, I don't know how to describe it, a pressure on the side of your face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I've been trying to come up with a name for it, and the only thing I can think of is facial awareness.
Oh.
About getting the podcast you want on Lady A, I always ask her for the latest episode of whatever podcast. That seems to work for me. Unlike yourself, I'm using Lady A even more than ever since I discovered the AI skills. As Claude said to me earlier today, toodaloo.
That's nice.
Toodaloo to you too.
Toodaloo to you, yeah.
Facial awareness. I mean, that's very clever.
It's quite clever, actually. That's a very Apple product, isn't it? That's going to be a thing they're going to do. That'll be a car feature or something down the line, I can tell.
It's really hard to sort of describe what that sensation is when you feel like there's something in front of you.
That's got to do with hearing, though. I think that's to do with hearing, isn't it?
I think it's a combination of everything.
It's the cloud of the hearing, because there's like a, how can I describe it? It's like a muffling of your hearing as you hear the sounds bounce back.
No, I think you're right, but I don't think it's just that, because I've had the same feeling when I've been listening to music and I've still, stop, there's something in front of me. So that wouldn't have been hearing, but I think it's a combination of everything, and that's just, I don't know, being more aware. But yeah, we need someone, a professor, on to explain it.
I think we need a lot of smart people on this show to deal with some of these issues people are bringing up today. Okay, let's move on. Negative Julian's back.
Hey.
Hello, Stephen, Shawn and Laura. Negative Julian again. Stephen, as promised, essential tremor. Now, I do not have an essential tremor, and I have no way of knowing how bad yours might be. But I'll take a guess that simply having bigger icons might help quite a bit. So, since you're playing about with an Android device anyway, may I suggest that you download an app called Big Launcher for Seniors by a developer called Big Launcher, logically enough. This is sort of a poor man's blind shell in that it gives you big fonts, big icons, and a simplified screen layout. So much easier to hit the button you want to hit. As I understand it, you can spread over several screens and customize icons, so you're not limited just to a few on one screen. I believe you can also have widgets. And most importantly, this app is still being actively maintained. So many of these launchers are not. To get full use of it, you will need to pay a one-off fee of £8.99. I'm sure if you speak to Shawn very nicely, he'll lend you the cash at a very reasonable rate of interest. And I think it might possibly help. Can't do any harm, can it?
No.
Now, for full disclosure, I'm not using Big Launcher because I don't need to. But what I am using is its companion app, Big Phone for Seniors, for which I paid £7.99 because you do need the full version to do very much. This is basically a replacement for the phone apps supplied by Google. All the same sort of functions in there, like contacts and so on, add contacts, whatever. But the big reason I got it was that when you invoke the dial pad, it fills the entire screen, top to bottom. Each number is basically bigger than my fingertip, and it's much brighter, clearer. If you've got any sight at all, it will help in that way. And the reason I downloaded it, if anybody wants to know, is that a while back I was trying out a new phone, and rather than move my SIM straight across, I bought a pay-as-you-go SIM, and to activate it, I bought a £10 voucher. That wasn't a problem because I scanned it with OCR and quite simply got the voucher number, a 16-digit number. But then I had to key it in, and I couldn't because it kept timing out. I simply could not input 16 digits fast enough to get this thing to accept it. Over and over again I tried, and over again it timed out on me. So that's what provoked me to install Big Phone for Seniors, because of the big dial pad. So I have personal experience of that and can recommend it, but you do need the full $7.99 version. So anyway, you might want to try this. It's not going to bankrupt you, and it might help. And it's all part of the testing procedure of an Android phone, isn't it, trying a launcher? So I'll say bye for now. Good luck, everybody. Bye from Negative Julian.
Thank you, Negative Julian. It's funny, actually. I haven't really played with the launcher thing on Android. That one I will definitely try. I don't know if it'll make a huge difference to me, because it's ultimately the challenge is kind of twofold. It is about finding the icons, but it's also about double tapping. You know, I tend to find that I'm thinking I'm double tapping, but actually my hand is doing, somersaults, and I'm quadrupling or I'm triple tapping or whatever. That's the biggest challenge. And you can change that. I know you can adjust.
I was going to say, adjusting the double tap speed may help to some degree. I think that's been around for a long time, Big Launcher. I seem to remember hearing about that years ago. And as long as it's being actively worked on now and kept up to date, I think that's great. I mean, it makes total sense to me. And that's a bargain price.
Well, it sounds to me very similar to Synaptic. I haven't tried it yet, but it sounds very similar. And I must admit, I've always wondered why no one's kind of come up with an equivalent of that, because Synaptic is quite an expensive device. You've got to buy the phone with the software. You can buy the software on its own. I think it's about £250 or £300, I think, in the UK.
Yes, which is expensive.
Which is pretty expensive, yeah. And you still have, you don't have full access to your phone in the Synaptic world, if you like, to ecosystem, if you want to put it that way. You're still, if you want to go online, you still have to go off and use the traditional browser. If you go to other apps, it's still the same. It's not like Blind Shell. So you're not having this kind of customized view. All the apps that are on there are essentially customized to you. They're not. So, I've often kind of thought, can't I just have this without having to spend that money? Maybe this is the answer.
This could be it. Yeah, absolutely. Worth a try.
Definitely worth a try. Stephen. Yeah, I will. No, I will. That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Negative Julian. The Tremor is an interesting. I know some people wonder about this because it is a bit unusual, I think, for us to talk about, because it's physical rather than visual. But
is it a blind tremor?
It's very similar to nystagmus. I genuinely think it is. I'm sure sometimes it's tied to it as well, because basically it's like nystagmus in the sense that if you're stressed out or you have a bad sleep, it is worse. It is definitely worse. So, the stress can come from various different... Any stress, it's so funny. If you have anything you need to do quickly, you can't do it quickly because your hand just doesn't let you. Typing is a nightmare these days. And I wouldn't say it's... I'd say overall it's gotten worse, but I have good days and bad days with it. That's the way I would put it. And it's something I am going to be going back to the doctor soon to see what's going on with it, because obviously there are slight concerns around what that could lead to potentially. It is a neurological condition. It's in the same family as Parkinson's, although I'm told this is not Parkinson's I have. But, again, it's always important to get these things checked out because you don't know where these things can change. As we both know, when I was told, your sight will never change when I was young. Yeah, thanks for that.
It's better to know. Yeah, always
absolutely.
goes to the doctors, get it checked out.
They don't know everything, these doctors, They do. They may think they do, but they don't. Right, Glendon has been in touch.
On the subject of why is it so difficult to get unbreakable kitchenware. Today is a busy day for me because it's become a literal pain due to the fact that I cut my hand on a broken plate.
Ooh.
Now I have to also see a doctor at a walk-in clinic to hopefully get it removed. My question is, why is it so difficult to buy non-breakable microwavable kitchenware? Specifically, I would dearly love to find a microwavable plate, bowl or cup that when I drop it on the floor, it doesn't break. I'm pretty sure that I used to own one, but I'm guessing that big business may have discontinued them in the interest of larger profits. Far be it from me to be cynical. Lol. I've spent ages searching the net and have gone to a couple of stores, including Kitchen Stuff Plus, but no success. Just thought I'd put it out there to see if any of our double tappers have any suggestions. All the best to you, Stephen, Shawn, Laura, and all the double tappers. Best regards, Glendon.
Thanks, Glendon. So hang on, what's getting removed?
Yeah, not the hand, I hope.
That's a bit extreme. Surely they just remove the bit of...
It must be
plate.
a splinter of whatever it is in there, the plate in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I hope you're
get well
okay,
soon.
Glendon. Yeah.
Okay. Do they exist? Unbreakable kitchenware?
Hang on. I mean, I'm immediately thinking of these plastic... I remember when I first got the microwave and there was those plastic... there was loads of... You could get them all the time, right? There was these... were they plastic?
That's what we're talking about, though, aren't we? If we're talking unbreakable, then we're talking it's got to be plastic.
You used to get the ones that had the lids. Remember those were like, you could get bowls and plates and...
Lock and locks, Tupperware.
What kind of thing, yeah, but they were for the microwave. That was the purpose of them.
Okay.
Is that all going away? I mean, that would seem ridiculous if that's the case, because those were brilliant.
Oh, I've got cupboards full of that sort of stuff. Anything that's on QVC, Sarah always buys all that.
Yeah.
We're putting in the microwave, doing the veg, steaming the veg in them. And
well, you get those bowl, I don't know if it's like a bowl or a pot type thing with a kind of handle that sticks out the side. It's all plastic. And those are great for cooking, like, vegetable.
I do my noodles in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That kind of thing is good. So there must be, surely to goodness, that must be. Can I speak to the manager, please?
We will throw it out there. I'm sure we will get lots of suggestions and recommendations for that. Unbreakable. Wow, you don't want much, do you, Glendon? Unbreakable.
Well, I think after that experience, I'd want Unbreakable as well.
That's true. But are you happy with plastic? I always remember, my mum buying me a load of plastic wine glasses because, of course, they're more practical. And me going, I really don't want these. I'm not being ungrateful.
Well,
but
you say that, but
come on.
We started the process of changing our
glassware to plasticware.
To plasticware. Mm-hmm.
I know, but and
I've got to be honest, it was a lot better.
All right.
It just was.
Accept it.
It just was.
Plastic.
Because the amount of times if a glass fell and shattered, that was terrifying. Utterly terrifying. And
especially with dogs around,
well,
you got to jump on the dog and hold them there while you.
That's right, and you're never really sure you've got it all. That's the problem. If the glasses, you can just. And I used to be able to see a bit more to kind of figure it out, but not anymore. I wouldn't even trust it.
Don't be all sensible and responsible and logical. You're getting on my nerves. Fine.
Sorry. Okay.
Plastic all the way. Tommy Tippy.
Let's move on to another voicemail.
Hi, Stephen, Shawn, and Audible Tappers. It's Pete in Robin Hood County.
Hey, Pete.
All is well with you.
Yeah, good.
Thanks for all the interesting shows. I'm never disappointed.
Oh.
Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Ah.
I particularly enjoyed the Ask Michael Everything.
Yes.
And I learned quite a bit from that, to be honest. And I immediately signed up for Unmute Presents.
Excellent.
That was good as well.
Yeah.
A query I've got about Voice Vista. Does it search for what 3-word addresses. I know Blind Square does. I just wonder if Voice Vista did. I plan my journeys before I leave the house, and then I get in a taxi and let him take me there. So, but it's a good bit of fun, and it's a very, very good app, Voice Vista. I'm very impressed with that, as I am with Speakaboo as well. Love that app. It's like Tap-Tap-See with AI. A very old app, Tap-Tap-See, as you know, and I still use it. It's good quality. Most of the apps are. And talking about audio description, I still did not get audio description on the film in The Invisible Man. I was very disappointed. But I'm sure Stephen's remembered that joke by now. Anyway, again, thanks for all the good shows, and I hope, Shawn, you enjoyed your Alice Cooper concert.
Amazing.
It'd be quite interesting to hear how you got on, not exactly getting there, but, you know, what you got from actually sitting there and, you know, facing the stage.
Nothing.
I know when I could see, I went to quite a few concerts. I remember going to one, it was a real rough house. It was a Budger Banton concert when he first came out, because I was into reggae then. And it was at one of these, I think it was at Marcus Garvey Centre when it was open. And it was a real rough house, and it started getting rough. And I think I was the only non-Jamaican in there, to be honest with you. But I really enjoyed the concert, but I soon left, smartish. But it was a good concert nonetheless. But I could see everything then. Now, I don't even think I could find my way to the door as my sight's dwindling. Anyhow, at least I know I'm alive. Anyway, take all the good shows, and for those in America, if you're getting fed up of the election already, download BBC Sounds and cheer yourself up with some Dead Ringers programmes. You can't go wrong. They do a better impression of Donald Trump than Donald Trump. Take care from Robin Hood County.
Oh, thank you, Pete. Love your messages. Love all your messages, guys. They're just fantastic.
I'm trying to think. It was on a roller coaster ride. Where did we start with that message then?
Well, you know, you haven't talked much more about Alice Cooper, so maybe it's worth mentioning
it was
that.
Amazing. And yeah, okay. So it started off. Sarah was so excited to see Alice Cooper, and I've got a bit of a downer on concerts since not being able to see the stage, like Pete said. I just thought, well, what's the point? I'd rather sit at home with a takeaway pizza and listen to the album. You know, why would I want to sit in a concert hall with not being able to see the stage? And I was a little bit, okay, I'll go. But actually, when I was there, and she kept saying, oh, it's all about the experience, you know, the atmosphere. You'll get into it. Yeah, okay, whatever. But she was absolutely right. As soon as they started playing some of the songs I like, and, you know, people were singing around me, and it was amazing. It was really, really good. I'm not saying, I was still slightly, I wanted to see the stage show. I wanted to see Alice Cooper, but no, it was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, it's my issue is getting over the door. That's the God's honest truth. Once I'm out and I'm somewhere, I'm fine. Like, you know, we went to Sight Village recently. That Monday morning, getting up to go was an absolute nightmare. Horror show of emotions. You know, every single thought in my mind of how I can cancel this thing, but still do it somehow. You know, it's like all this going through my mind, and then I just like, once I'm over the door, I'm out. And once I literally like walking up the street, I was fine. That was it. I was fine. Just breaking over the front door. That's often the biggest challenge. And if you can get there, if you can do that, then hopefully the rest will follow. But it does take a lot of time. And look, I think we just have to be realistic. You know, there's things that, you know, we can still do, but we need help with, and that's fine. You know, and you have to think as well, like in a situation like you were in there, Pete, you know, the Rough House, as you call it. Is that not a Patrick Swayze movie? But I think nowadays you would be terrified to go into that, because how are you going to find your way out? You know, audibly, it's a mess if you're relying on your hearing to find your way out. I mean, I remember you and I in Vienna. We went for dinner with the lovely Mr. F and Mr. Aflalo at the time as well. And God love them. We wanted to go for a meal, but I could barely survive that place. I just couldn't hear myself think. And it was really it was really difficult, to sit in that environment. I just shut down in that moment.
You did.
I did. I just couldn't respond.
Well, you couldn't, no, because we went to a busy bar and there was really loud music. Metallica, by the way. It was fantastic.
Is that what that racket was?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Right.
But we were having a meal and, we just couldn't hear each other. And if you can't hear each other, you can't see each other, you shut down. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, and I just felt I couldn't engage. Wasn't that I didn't want to engage? I did, but I just couldn't hear anyone. It was so uncomfortable. It was like someone was, putting their foot on my head. It was like, get off me. Didn't like it.
I just ate my pasta. It was lovely. A ragu, I seem to remember. Oh, those were the days.
Chicken schnitzel from memory.
You did. You had a schnitzel. How was it?
It's beautiful. It was the bread and chicken. It's like what I have at home. I always laugh. It's like when I go to Canada and they say you must have the poutine. You must have the poutine. And I'm like, what is poutine? And they go, it's chips and gravy. And I'm like, what? The thing we have on a Friday night in Britain when we, clearly have lost our ability to taste anything.
Oh, chips and gravy's the best. Chips, peas and gravy with cheese on top, even better.
Come on.
Oh, stop it. I'm getting hungry.
I will say, the chips and gravy bit is fine.
Yeah.
Just cut back on the salt, guys. What is with salt these days? I don't like salt. There, I said it.
Wow. You're a ridiculous there.
I'm a hero for saying that.
He says eating a bucket of KFC.
I know, but that's what I mean. Like, I think I've put myself off the KFC because with the Uber Eats thing, I've cancelled the app. I'm not doing it anymore.
Whoa.
Do you know? Yeah, no, I know that. Actually, do you know what that is?
Breaking news.
Absolutely is breaking news.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
How long did it take?
Is. That took about a month and a half. But yeah, I mean, a lot of chicken was consumed before I realised that my mouth was being wired shut every single time I ate it. Too much salt.
So be careful what you wish for, sir.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I remember, right, my wife and I have lived in this place for about 10 years, this village, and we've had, no ability to get anything more than fried food. And I don't mean fried chicken. I mean just like, a basic chippy tea, as you would call it, fish and chips. That's pretty much all you can get. You can get Indian food, you can get Chinese food, but that is it. That's literally the options available to you. This app opens up 10 years later. Suddenly it's, wow, amazing. And we order absolutely everything. A month later, we're sitting here going, not KFC again. And I thought, wow, it's changed it. So actually it helped me. Yeah, it helped me.
Well done. It's like, if you get caught smoking a cigarette and they make you smoke a whole pack. Is that the lesson we've took from this?
It's a bad lesson. I think that's a particularly bad lesson. But yes, I suppose it is.
Well done.
You can sicken yourself. You can sicken yourself with it. And I clearly have. So there you go. Right. Shawn, not you, has been in touch. No, not you.
Good evening, fellows. Someone might call me a liberal for it. But it's not such a bad idea to let AI help you with posts.
Oh.
We've got personal voice on our phones now, so why not? Although, next thing you know, we'll have someone posting as Morgan Freeman. Shawn here from North Texas. I've got a thought that's been bouncing around. Maybe this whole email to podcast idea could turn into something cool. Personally, I've become a consistent listener of your show. And over the past year, I've seen a lot of growth, both personally and professionally. Perhaps this could be a new way for us to keep that momentum going. We're all in the same boat with this whole blindness thing. We've got a lot of ideas, a lot of passion, and sometimes our personalities can clash. But honestly, I believe we should strive to be one voice in this blind community. Maybe if we start getting more listeners of a podcast engaged in conversations, we could guide things in a better direction. Or I could just keep writing to you guys, and we can banter, have a laugh, and maybe even spark some good ideas along the way. On a personal note, I recently turned 50, and with that milestone, I've already made some big changes. Moving forward, I want to use the skills I've picked up over the past 50 years to be a better person and hopefully help others along the way. One thing I've been thinking about is how important it is for kids, and really anyone, to learn Braille and even sign language in K to 12 education. It certainly couldn't hurt. Maybe we should make it a part of social studies and even mandatory. What we need is numbers, because nothing grabs people's attention like stats. For instance, how many blind students who learned Braille in the late 70s and early 80s went on to have successful careers? Did those programs help X% of people who are blind secure good jobs? Now, looking forward, how could AI technology help that segment thrive? What exactly is needed to ensure that a larger percentage of blind people worldwide are not only employed but living financially stable lives? I'd really like to know what that percentage is now, because frankly, I'm not sure I'm in it. We need to talk about the traditional blind jobs, which often involve nonprofits, state, or federal government roles. The salaries in these fields are pretty average. Even the leaders in agencies working with blind individuals, how do their salaries compare to those in the private sector? I think you can see where I'm going with this. My best friend recently told me about young graduates coming out of college, landing sales manager positions at car dealerships, and making $250,000 yearly. Where are the blind graduates landing? What's the path for them? I don't know, I never went to college. But I think things worked out okay for me. I've been in this field a long time, working as a contractor for state agencies and nonprofits, and now running my own businesses. Currently, I'm a manufacturer's representative and manager for Envision glasses in the southeastern United States. But at the end of the day, I'm still a blind guy. It's critical that we start having real conversations about this. There's been very little progress in the past 50 years, and it's time we chart a new path. Maybe that's where we're headed now. I'm cautiously optimistic. And I believe Mosen can help connect the dots between the blind community and the companies we need to partner with. If anyone can do it, it's him. Thanks for letting me share these thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going. Best, Shawn join AI for the Blind, a group about AI on Facebook.
Is that his name, Shawn Join?
Shawn Join, yeah. That's the only thing with AI when you're doing those voices. Sometimes it gets all the words mixed up. But that was very good, actually. It was a nice voice to listen to as well.
It was very good. And it is an interesting Facebook group, AI for the Blind. I mean, it's growing and growing, and he does a lot of work in there. So, yeah, definitely check that out. Okay, I mean, where do we start there when it comes to employment paths? I don't know if there's any comments to be made, to be honest.
It's very difficult, isn't it? Because earlier we talked about the progress in technology terms, how things have improved. And it seems for us there is, been so much progress in the past few years. I think, it comes back to this whole Braille discussion about, the value of Braille and what Braille means today, 200 years on. I think Braille had a very different meaning 50 years ago to what it does today because of technology. Now, yes, I absolutely agree that coupled with Braille, you kind of, you go supersonic, right? You've got so much capability, but it is about the education as well. So the education is the first thing. Of course, we've talked about the price, and the only reason the price is so high is because of so few people buying. So therefore, you need more people learning. So there's more of a market that brings the price down. I mean, it's pretty much as simple as that. So it's a two-pronged approach, but it is. There doesn't seem to be as much progress when it comes to employment. The stats don't seem to change. Now, I have to say, as a layperson in this, I sometimes hear these statistics about employment, and I think, where are these numbers coming from, and how are they being, how are they being sourced? Like, where are they getting these numbers from? That's what I want to know. Because I hear these stats of like 25% of working people who are blind are in a job and 75% are not. Okay, what is that based on? Where is that coming from? I'd love to get some information on the sources of these stats, because I'm not saying they're wrong. I just don't know where these numbers come from. They just appear.
Cite your sources. Is this coming from sight loss organizations? Is this coming from government employment departments? I don't know.
I mean, even the Braille stats have been questioned over the years. The number of children who are learning Braille, we hear 10%, but there's a lot of disquiet about those numbers as well.
It's funny, though, we just accept those numbers. I've accepted those numbers for years and years. It's just what you do. Hey, how am I going to find out if they're right or wrong, any different? So we do just accept those numbers. But actually, you're right. I don't know, though, in our community, when it comes to employment, I mean, those numbers seem about right to me from personal experience of, friends and acquaintances around me.
Yeah. And, Shawn made reference there to Jonathan Mosen, who he's talking about there, of course, who's left his current role, I believe, and he's now working for the National Federation of the Blind. It's interesting, Shawn, that you said it in the way of, essentially this is the guy that will make the change. I think there's a huge amount of change happened already. I think we should acknowledge that. And that's why I say it's important we recognize the progress, because we can very quickly forget where we are at today. Younger people, especially those who've been born in the 2000s, who are growing up and are getting to this age in their 20s, are sitting saying, but my iPhone hasn't improved much, or this hasn't changed much. But actually, pre-2000, 2007, there was nothing. So, or at least far less technology around. It was far more challenging as a blind person to access the mainstream world of tech, and that's what's changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will say, and this is of no consequence to Jonathan Mosen at all, but, we don't look at one individual. We can't do that. We must look as a collective, as a group. And bear in mind, this is an international issue. There has to be groups around the world involved, not just the National Federation of the Blind, although they do have a strong voice. And I think part of the reason the organisation as a whole has a strong voice, and that's why I think when people are excited that Jonathan's going there, I think the reason is because it is made up of blind people who are at the helm. But I think it's also important to be realistic and say that, a lot of people, don't like the approach the NFB takes as well. So, you got to see both sides of this, right?
It's impossible to make everyone happy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But, I think this idea of a shining star, and this is it, we all follow the star and that's it. I'm not into that. I'm not a believer in one person can change the world, as you well know.
Yeah.
So, I think, people as a collective can make a huge difference. Absolutely, that's true. But individuals, should play their part, and we should all play our part if we can. And hats off to Jonathan, who's done a huge amount in his career. I mean, the Marrakesh Treaty was one of his big pieces of work that he was involved in that, I don't think would have gotten over the line without him. So, huge kudos to him for that. And many other things over the years as well. So I wish him well in his job. I hope it goes well. It's definitely required, I think, especially in the world of AI. And we talked, of course, with Be My Eyes, and I think that's actually one company that, if I'm honest, if I'm looking for any Northern Star, I think it's Be My Eyes at the moment, to be honest. I think what they're doing in terms of accessibility, working with companies, meaningful change, with Hilton recently, the work they're doing with Microsoft around user data for AI training models. That's the stuff that could make a real difference to our lives, that stuff.
It's that forward thinking that's really impressed me with Mike in particular, and Be My Eyes. That looking at other areas, it's not just about, I don't know, just A to B. There seems to be, they look so far ahead and see technologies that are coming and just jump on them and try and get a handle on them, in advance. And it's paying off.
There is something else which is kind of interesting here. And it's kind of consequential, but I find it interesting, and it's always worth mentioning, that Mike is fully sighted. Yeah, and that goes against the grain a little bit for some people, doesn't it? Because it's like, well, hang on a minute, but blind people, we should be leading the charge. You know what? Again, you've got to be careful with inclusion. Yeah, we want blind people to be included in everything in life, absolutely. But inclusion comes at the cost of exclusion. And that means you can push people away. And we see this across identity politics, quite frankly. I've said this before, but it really does sometimes take hammering home. You cannot say, and you should never say, that blind people alone are the only people who can ever be helpful in changing our lives, or solving a problem for us. It's why I'm against this idea of it always has to be a blind CEO. I mean, yeah, of course I want a blind person to be a CEO. Of course I do. But it's not just about that one individual. It has to be more than that. There has to be an organization full of blind people with different opinions and different views. If it's just one guy who's blind saying, I am the blind person who will tell you how everything should be, sorry, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It can't just be. It's a group effort. It's teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we're almost out of time. Thank you again for all your comments and feedback this week. It's been quite an incredible week, frankly, of comment, and still more to come. We'll have more of your emails on next week's show and some interesting conversations as we continue into Goodness me, through November. It's only Christmas.
Oh, wow. What are you getting me?
Absolutely nothing.
Nice. Good. Well done. You go up to your loft.
You get
see
enough.
What you got.
You get enough. Every time I empty my cupboards, you get a box full of stuff.
You are my tech Santa. Thank you.
That's right. Every day's Christmas over here at Double Tap. Listen, thank you again. If you want to keep in touch, please do. You know the details by now. Feedback at doubletaponair.com. That's the email address. Look, I had to tell you. The voicemail is 1-8... What else would it be? 1-877-803-4567. That number is our call-in number, 1-877-803-4567. And Shawn will sing us out with...
Here we go.
The WhatsApp number.
WhatsApp. Call us on 1-613-481... 0144.
Happy
You're
weekend,
welcome.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.